Ah, the Gladden Hart family are a full light of power. Yes. Thank you. I've been asked to repeat a story that one of the persons on the search team saw on one of my talks. And so I want to start off with that. It really doesn't have anything to do with Jerusalem stone or the white stone ceremony or anything of that nature, but I just thought it was kind of a cute story. Vicki and I, when we were, I was 20 and she was 17, used to travel together on Sunday mornings because I was a licensed Baptist minister, and we would travel to different churches throughout Virginia and North Carolina. And one Sunday, we were going to North Carolina, and I've forgotten the name of the town even, but it was a small town. And so we arrived at church on time, went into the church, and went through the ceremony and gave the message. I gave the message, she sang. And then what happened was that I said thank you to the church and used their name. And there was complete silence. Complete silence. And they said, "You're in the wrong church. The other church is a block away." So I said, all right. We got in the car. We went down to the next church. Walked in. They were all sitting there. Still, it's 11:30, and they're all still sitting there. I'm amazed, kind of. And they said, "Well, we just figured you got lost." And I said, "Well, actually, I did. And I gave the service there also and gave a message." So anyway, what was amazing is both of them paid me. And being a college student, I was really appreciative of that. So anyway, just to share the past. There's a lot in a name. There's a book called Metaphysical Bible Dictionary that Charles Fillmore, founder of Unity, co-founder of Unity, put together. And in it, it gives you the metaphysical and Hebrew meaning of different names. And it's interesting that as you look at the names and the metaphysical and or actual Hebrew name, it kind of depicts what their life is about. And so what's in a name? For example, Abram became Abraham. And when he did, what he heard from Spirit was that you will be a father of nations. And sure enough, that's what happened. Then you have David, the king, the great king of Israel. And David's name means unconditional love. And it also means to be beloved. And the people of Israel loved David. He made his fair share of mistakes, but he still was loved, and he continued to love people and love God unconditionally. Then you got Jacob. Now, Jacob's the guy who stole the birthright from his brother. That's a great way to start off life. And then took off because he was afraid he was going to get killed. And he went out into the far lands, and then he came back. And when he came back, he had a vision, and his name was changed from Jacob to Israel. And he had 12 children, and they became the head of the 12 tribes of Israel. And of course, he had a son called Joseph. And then you have a guy by the name of Jabez. Anybody remember the prayer of Jabez? Oh, we're going to have to talk about that one Sunday before I get out of here, okay? Yeah. The prayer of Jabez is one of the shortest prayers and one of the shortest, it's only 2 verses in the Bible about Jabez. And Jabez means an inner assurance that your desires can be manifested. And the prayer of Jabez, and I don't have it in front of me, but it kind of goes, "Please bless me, Lord. Bless all that I desire. Bless all that I want, and I will use it to your benefit." Period. And they say he became one of the wealthiest men in the Bible. So Jabez. And then you've got Joshua. And most people don't know this, but Joshua is Jesus' original name. And Joshua means Savior. Now, the Joshua I'm talking about is the one that took the Israelites out of Egypt into the Promised Land. That was a point of being a Savior to the people of Israel, where they get their own home and settle down and thrive. And then there's our friend Moses. Now, the Hebrew meaning of that is to be drawn out. To be drawn out, because he was drawn out of the river and was put in Pharaoh's home, with his mother as the midwife in that case. And so what happened is that, as we know, he drew the people of Israel out of Egypt. To draw out, to bring forth, to manifest. And so, as we can tell, there is a lot of power in names. And each of us have our own name that we use, and we can, it's powerful, no matter what it is, because it lets you know who you are and an image of who you are. But we also have a spiritual name. And that spiritual name is drawn within us, and we can identify it. And the idea of today is to find that spiritual name. And when you do that, what will happen is that you will be able to write it on a stone. That's called the white stone ceremony. And just know that as you prepare yourself to give yourself a spiritual name, a name that will carry you through the year, a name you will write down on a white stone as you came in. Does everybody have a white stone? Anybody need a white stone? We have good ushers here, you know that? Yeah. So what happens is that we are setting an intention of how we want to show up this year. Some people might write down faith. People might write down strength. Some people might write down the word love. All kinds of thoughts can come about. So there's not one particular word that everybody has to agree on. It's what moves you, what touches you at the heart level. What says to you, this is the intention of what I want to be, how I want to show up, and how I am going to show up during this year. If forgiveness is a challenge for you, maybe you want to put down the word forgive. I want to forgive. I want to be forgiveness. If pain is a challenge, either emotional pain or physical pain, you might write down, I am free from pain. That's how I want to show up this year. Does it mean the pain will go away immediately? No. Sometimes, but not normally. What it means is that you're learning to deal with the pain, manage the pain, and by the end of the year come out of the pain and be totally free. So there's a lot of ways in which we can come about using names. And as we look at this white stone ceremony this morning, just remember that what we're having the opportunity to do, and we had last week, is to prepare ourselves last week with the burning bowl service to a new slate, to a new way of thinking, a new way of being for this year. I burned away, I let go, and I said yes to opportunity and to love. I said yes to a new way of being, showing up, and responding to life, not reacting to life. And each of you, when you came in, were given this white stone. It is an ancient ritual. It goes all the way back to the time of Jesus. And what happened is that each person, when they were released from prison or from some form of bondage, a leper who was healed, received a white stone. And they individually wrote a new name on that white stone. And when they would show that name, it showed that they had been freed from the past, that they had served the time they were supposed to be served, and they would be treated normally for the rest of their lives. You know that the tradition of this probably comes from Revelation 2:17. And as John talks about people being given a new name, Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches, and the churches represent the members of churches throughout Paul's journeys. Scripture also says to the children of Jerusalem, to everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna. To all who see beyond appearances, I will give all that is needed to live. And so we remember the story of the Israelites traveling out in the first little rebellion after they got across the Red Sea. You would think they'd be celebrating, but they were a little concerned about being hungry. And we all know that when somebody's hungry, they don't think about their spiritual growth. They live in some form. It's natural. And today we are still collecting clothing for individuals, and we do support food banks through Unity so that people have an opportunity to be fed. And once they're fed and are comfortable, they can now think about their spiritual life. Probably everybody sitting in here this morning had enough food. Everybody sitting here this morning may be at peace because of that. So you have this opportunity to bring in the spiritual and to think in spiritual manners. Also, it represents the opportunity to overcome, which Jesus talked about, to overcome our doubts. And we have those from a human perspective. But as a spiritual being, we can be whole. We can know that there's nothing really to doubt. There's nothing really to fear. And that we are truly connected with the divine within us, with what we in Unity call the Christ within us. And that's not Jesus, that's an idea of consciousness, of what is within us that brings us into a consciousness where we show up and exhibit the divine within us. And so this morning, I want you to give this opportunity to give thought to what is my new name? How significant will it be? And how will it help me overcome any situation or condition? And how can I feel free from bondage? And so take out your white stone. And you should have a pencil, I hope. And let me just say that I have about 15 of these at home, and every year it's a new name on them, and I put them on a bookcase. And what I do is when I write my name on a stone, I then take it home and I put it in water. And that will, in essence, keep the name there. If you use a pencil, it will not come off. It'll actually harden it. Okay? So, and I don't really put it in a whole bowl of water. I just kind of let the water drip over it. I'm sorry. Okay, just so you know that. All right. And then once I've done that, I let it dry, and I put it up on my desk each year so that I see it. And then when it comes to the next year, I change it. And every year so far, it's been a new, different name for me. And so, what I'd like for you to do is take a few moments, and I invite you to begin a time of conscious contemplation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the meditation right now. It's supposed to be at the end, but I'm going to do it right now. So, Pete, if you give me a little background music, I'd appreciate that. And if the lights could be dimmed. And what I would like for you to do is take a few moments and close your eyes gently. And take in a nice, deep breath. And release that. And as you breathe in, feel the energy within you breathing out. As you breathe in, allow yourself to be divine mind, to see yourself as a divine idea, and to see yourself expressing that divine idea. And now let us go into the silence. And in the silence, just relax. And think about, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What word or words would be an indication of those thoughts? And so now gently go into that time of silence. Stay with the music and let it guide you and direct you. Let it fill your heart with ideas. And now be in the silence. And now we stepped into our boldness. Be bold this morning. Let yourself move beyond the limitations of ego, to allow your divinity to shine through as you prepare to name and claim your good through this ceremony. This morning is a promise of a new life, a clean slate. Behold the Christ of God in each of us. Yes, I make all things new. Yes, I make all things new. Say that with me. Yes, I make all things new. Namaste. So as you write down the name, and take the time to do that, just remember that the past is now gone, that you live in the now moment. You're free to choose thoughts to remember your spiritual identity and to live different, better, spiritually growth-oriented lives. You may or may not want to share this name, but keep it close to your heart. Whatever you write down has come to you to be lived out, to be embodied as you. And so listen to that whisper. Whisper from your soul. And hear and write down your new name. And think this morning about the fact that you are living in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus always said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not somewhere you go to, it's something you live in. And in that heavenly thought, there is a consciousness. And that consciousness guides and directs you, supports you and loves you. It is dependable. It is based on principle. It also has personal ways in which we can identify it. Through the power of love, through the power of energy, through the power of wisdom, through the power of forgiveness. It is who you are and what you are. And if you are unable to complete the name at this time just because it's not coming to you, don't let that be a concern. Take it home. Sit the stone and stare at it, and then just hold it in prayer. And then write down the name that comes. And so, Jesus said, know that my Father's good pleasure is to give me and to give to you this kingdom. It's yours for the taking. The only thing that gets in the way of it is the ego. So what we're doing this morning is letting go of the ego. And say to yourself that you accept this consciousness of ever-increasing good in your life. And then carry this white stone as a reminder of that promise. And as you do that, feel, experience, and be aware of the difference it makes. Try and make a commitment now that you are going to keep this stone, look at this stone, and look at the name. So you will continue to grow spiritually. You will continue to understand yourself more richly. And that you will be a blessing to each and every person in your life. May God bless you. You are wonderful, wonderful people. And so it is. And now we have our meditation song.